Hey everyone, it's Allie, and it's time for another major build updates. Now, over the past few days, I've been doing quite a lot of cooking, and it's time to show you everything we came up with. Not only did we find a way to fit in a mini headhunter into our build at all times, but we found more damage, we found more clear, we know exactly what the mid game of the build's gonna look like, and most importantly, we're now going to be a chaos build. I'm excited about all of this, as this video is gonna be pretty big, so let's just jump directly into it and not waste any time. As always, the path to building will be updated with all this, so please do take a read through the notes as there's going to be quite a lot of information here, and I'm just going to be giving you a top-level overview of everything so you know where you're getting yourself into. Now, we got to start this off by rewinding a little bit here, and we have to ask ourselves, what exactly are we trying to do with the build moving forward? Well, in the short term, there are going to be a lot of jewels that we're going to want to fit in. We're going to want to grab ourselves a Flesh and Flame, and then we're eventually going to want to start fitting in the instacking jewels, and we don't really have space for any of that, which makes things very complicated. Do we drop some of the unique jewels that we already have? We kind of can't. They're all very good. And if not, then how exactly do we find space to get more jewels? The problem with our current tree is that we literally need all this. This is all very strong. It's all very powerful. And you really can't give up anything here, making even grabbing just the base jewel sockets for the clusters effectively impossible to do. Because of that, our only real option is to find a way forward to where we can add in cluster jewels, because if we can do that, we are going to get ourselves 4 additional jewel sockets to work with. As a lightning setup, as I mentioned, it's not really possible, but as a chaos build, we need significantly less nodes from the passive tree, which then allow us to be able to focus more on clusters, giving us the jewel sockets that we need. This chaos swap is going to give you effectively the same damage that you had before. And later on, we are also going to just happen to become Allie Reflect Immune, which is going to feel really nice. And it's going to allow us to push the build significantly further than what we were able to do before. Now, the swap is going to be fairly simple, and it's going to be the first major focus for our mid game after we swapped over to Chaos Inoculation. This is going to require 4 specific things out of you. You're going to need to get yourself 2 specific cluster jewels, a new pair of gloves, and you're going to have to quickly recraft the multi-mod on your wand. Those cluster jewels are going to be the most important thing, as we are going to be a chaos build by utilizing Overwhelming Malice, which gives you Unholy Might on crit that converts all of your physical damage over to chaos and gives you access to Wither, which is a debuff that makes enemies take more damage. Without this, we basically cannot swap over to a chaos build, so on one cluster, you absolutely need to make sure they have Overwhelming Malice. For your other nodes, it really doesn't matter where you get here. There's actually a lot of really solid chaos notables. So you're simply just going to use the trade links in the note section for the chaos swap to buy yourself some clusters from there that are half decent. The ones that path to building are the ideal ones, but those are over 20 to 30 div each, and I don't expect you to grab those. And there's plenty of super cheap options for anywhere between 2 to 3 div that you can pick up relatively easily. Once you have your Overwhelming Malice cluster, your other one doesn't need anything specific on it, and we're just looking for 3 solid notables out of the fairly large pool of good notes for us to pick. This will also have a trade link in the note section, so please just take your time, look through those, and figure out exactly what you want to buy. On top of that, we also need to quickly recraft a new pair of gloves. Your old gloves were really good for the conversion setup, but we don't want that physical to lightning conversion because it's going to get in the way of Overwhelming Malice, and it's just a DPS loss. For our new gloves, we're simply going to go and grab ourselves a fractured mana pair of gloves, and then we're going to use a attack speed essence to roll for intelligence, and then we're going to multi-mod 2 prefixes on. There's a whole crafting guide for this in the note section, so please take a look at that and follow along, and these should be super cheap to craft and fairly easy to make. Lastly, we just have to change the multi-mod on our wand as we multi-modded both the hybrid strength and int plus critical strike chance, hybrid suffix, and elemental penetration as our prefix. We need to change that elemental penetration over to chaos penetration as we are now going to be a full chaos build. So this does require you to go to your crafting bench, click remove all crafted mods, and then simply just put the multi-mod back on, craft chaos pen, and then craft the hybrid mod to basically get the same thing. You don't need to recraft your wand at all. You can use the exact same one you had before. And with those 4 things, you're going to be ready to swap. In the path of building, in the top right, there'll be a new loadouts where you're going to go from mid-game step 1, which is where we left off in the build, to the mid-game chaos swap loadouts, which will show you exactly how to play your passive points. This is a fairly trivial swap over, and once you've done so, you're basically off to races. So now that we have the whole chaos swap out of the way, let's talk about all those unique jewels that we want to fit in. Your first priority is going to be grabbing yourself a Balance of Terror. This is a jewel that gives you different bonuses based off of which curses you've cast recently. And the thing about this is that you have to manually press yourself. We cannot automate this, otherwise the bonuses don't work. In our case, we want to find one for Despair that gives you access to Wither on hit for 10 seconds after pressing it. With Overwhelming Malice, we have a 25% chance to apply Wither on hit, and that isn't enough to hit the 15 cap on bosses. For clearing, this is completely irrelevant as it doesn't matter, you just instantly kill everything anyways, but for bosses, this is going to be required and it's going to be a pretty large single target DPS increase. These are going to be quite costly, and you can look for a double Despair one with the immune to curses on it too, but that's honestly not really worth it to do right now, and it's going to be something we could upgrade to in the super late game. Once you put this in, your playstyle is not going to change at all. You're simply just going to keep using Despair on bosses like you were using Sigil Power before, and that gives you access to Wither on hit, making holding 15 stacks super simple. After that, it's time to finally add in something I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the Mini-Headhunter. This season, we got ourselves Foulborn uniques, as you might be aware, and there's a very fun Foulborn version of a jewel that's going to fit perfectly into our build. We now have access to Foulborn Inspired Learning, and there's multiple copies of this, but we specifically want the one that will make it so it is active if there are no notables within its large radius. It just so happens that at this jewel socket by Mind Over Matter and this jewel socket by Pain Attunement, we never picked up any notables anyways. Forethought is actually out of this radius, so we could just run these for free and just get 2 modifiers off of every rare we kill for 20 seconds. You don't need to grab yourself 2 of these. They're relatively expensive, and even just 1 feels pretty good if you steal Soul Eater or Haster at times, but 2 are going to feel really good together. Now, after that, it's time to get into the very expensive portion of the mid-game for this build. We are now going to be looking to grab ourselves some fairly powerful upgrades. They're going to unfortunately cost a little bit of money, and you're going to have to farm for a while to be able to afford them. First off is going to be grabbing yourself Awakened Fork. This is the significantly better version of Fork that allows your forks to, well, fork. This gets very silly very quickly when it comes to clear, and it's going to be an absolute winner in terms of being able to just delete everything on your screen. Previously, we were using the rune graft of reflection, so we didn't really need fork anymore, and replaced that with elemental damage, which you swap over to damage on full life once you swap to the chaos setup. And now we're going to completely get rid of that rune graft. We're going to get rid of our damage on full life and instead slot this in. This should give you about the same amount of damage that damage on full life was giving you, given that this should be able to push you from 3 overlaps to 4 on average on bosses, so it's about the same DPS. This has the added benefit of the double forking, which will absolutely body what the graft is able to give you in terms of clear, and it's going to feel downright insane. This is quite expensive, and it's going to take a lot of people a lot of time to be able to farm, and by all means, you're more than fine to stick with a rune graft for a very long time if you want to. It's just this is going to feel like a night and day difference. From there, it's time to start talking about the forbidden jewels for a build. This is going to be something that, while right now is not going to be that insane, it's going to get very insane very quickly once we get to the end game, and it's about time we pick them up, given we have the jewel sockets to run them. Forbidden Flesh and Flame are a pair of jewels, and if you have 2 copies giving you the same node, you get access to that node, so you get to pick a free ascendancy node from all nodes that your class has access to. In our case, we are now going to want to go and find ourselves a Radiant Faith Flesh and Flame, which is going to give you a very silly amount of energy shield. This also does give you armor, and it's a okay amount of armor. It'll feel good, but we're going to kind of just completely ignore it. It's going to be a little bit too difficult to scale it. But what we really care about here is the 10% of our reserve mana gained as maximum energy shield. Right off the bat, this should be worth about 2,500 energy shield. And as we push into the end game, Radiant Faith on its own is easily going to give you 15,000 total energy shield. It's going to be very disgusting, extremely powerful, and, well, it is quite expensive due to that. This is something you can potentially pick up later, but it is something I would recommend for you to try and look into now, as this is likely going to only get more expensive as the season goes on, given that a lot of different variations of Mana Men all want Radiant Faith for just its sheer power. It might take you a little bit to buy this, and I would recommend for you to check on its price across a day or two and to figure out exactly when the correct time to buy it is, as these jewels do tend to randomly spike in price by 2 to 3x and then very quickly come down over the course of a few hours. With this, just slap them in wherever and replace 2 of the rare jewels that you bought to make the swap over to Chaos happen, and enjoy the very large amount of energy shield that's only going to get more ridiculous. Finally, the last upgrade that we need to discuss that's going to be part of the mid-game is going to be to go grab yourself an Impossible Escape. This jewel will allow you to pick up nodes around a given keystone. In our case, we're going to want to go grab ourselves one for acrobatics, finally allowing us to pick up split shot and giving us our anoint back. This also has the benefit of being able to hit this small node, which is half the power of split shot, so you get a pretty significant buff from that. And we also get to grab ourselves multi-shot, which is even more clear. With this, we now can finally go and pick up our true endgame anoint, Tranquility, which is absolutely ridiculous. This is just simply going to give you 30% of your maximum energy shield gain as just raw generic spell damage. In our case, we are getting 1% energy shield per 5 intelligence. So that means for every 5 intelligence you gain, you are just getting a generic 0.3% increased spell damage. We are about to get ready to swap over to an instacker, and this is going to get very silly very quickly, with this easily being over a quarter of your total DPS and making instacking even stronger. Impossible Escape is going to be quite expensive to get. Please do keep that in mind, as this is only going up more and more in value, but it's going to basically be the final upgrade before we get ready for the end game, and it's going to feel very good given it's about a 15% DPS increase. With that, you pretty much have every single major mid-game item, and you should be able to delete pretty much all content with no issues. From here, there's one more step to make before going over to the end game, which is going to be farming a Mageblood and crafting a heist ring, which I know some people are going to say, Allie, that's kind of crazy for a mid-game build, but welcome to this build. It's about to get very expensive very fast, and in our case, Mageblood is very much a mid-game item. The point is that even if you don't go and farm yourself a Mageblood, you can do literally all content with no issues. So if you don't think you're going to be able to do that or don't want to, this should be more than enough to give you an extremely comfortable experience for all endgame content you want to do. The point is that we're going to push this build significantly further. We are nowhere near the limits of it, and this Mageblood is required for us to get now to make everything not clunky. It is basically impossible to put the rest of it from here together without a Mageblood, and I don't really even want to attempt to tell you to try because it's going to be very, very bad. In the next update video, we're going to talk about what Mageblood entails for the build, how that's going to slot in and all the changes you have to make for it. And we're going to talk about a heist ring, which is going to be the second major craft of our build after the wand you made at the start of the mid game, which will be the absolute final item needed to then be able to finally move into the end game and to start instacking. If you have any questions on anything we went over here, please do feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. You're also free to just come on my Twitch and just ask me your questions there, and I'll be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. You're also more than free to just come and hang out and be a part of our community and join all the theory crafting, the rest of the kitties. And I hope all this was helpful to you. I hope this makes your build feel a lot better, help you have a lot of fun, and I'll see you kitties in the next update.